and the list just keeps getting harder and harder to make. Yet I do it, and I got a couple of hot takes in this next one. But if you don't know what we're doing a redo of the NFL Top 100 because we could all agree the one the NFL Network or the NFL.com or whatever put out wasn't all that great, or at least in my opinion. Maybe it's yours too. So I went ahead, I'm redoing this, and to help cut players off this list, everyone on this list had to have played at least 50% of their offensive or defensive team's snaps. Now, I constructed this list by taking into consideration a few things. Positional value, that's a big one, on top of their performance in 2019. And then the overall value they are to their team, on top of also just how well did they do for their position. But I'm Steven Gardell, better known as You Already Know It. What's crack-lacking? It's your boy Broshmo, just in case you did not know. So go ahead, become a bro and subscribe. Leave a thumbs up if you enjoy the video. And if you're viewing this anywhere else, go on YouTube, search Broshmo. That's Broshmo. It's tough to spell, I get it. And then subscribe. I do a lot of videos dealing with football in general. So especially draft. You love the draft. I do a lot of those. Yeah. Oh, we'll be streaming later today too, so you better check that out. And let's go ahead. Let's get in. We're going to start with 60, and I got Khalil Mack here. He wasn't his usual disruptive self, but still it was a very fruitful year for him. He didn't eclipse double-digit sacks. He only had 9, but he had 70 pressures, and he was among the best run defenders of almost any of the pass rushers on this list, and that's why he's here at 60. Remember, it's a down year for him. Still here at 60. Mark Andrews coming in here at 59. Andrews, stellar. He was stellar for the Ravens offense, both as a blocker and a receiver. He was just a touchdown machine. He had 100 touchdowns on the season. And the one thing that kind of knocked him down a little bit for him is he didn't offer too much after the catch compared to the other two guys you could probably imagine that are on this list. They're going to come much later, being no, I'm not going to tell you who they are. You know who it is, but I'm not going to say it. Luke Kuechly, man, RIP, man, am I right? You will be dearly, dearly missed, especially by the Panthers. He had one heck of a final season. The dude's a future Hall of Famer. We know that. He had 54 stops, defensive stops, and only missed 6 tackles on 140 attempts. He threw 10 pass breakups, 2 interceptions into that. He was pretty solid in coverage. Now the Panthers, unfortunately, have the impossible task of trying to replace him. Shaq Thompson's pretty solid in coverage, but he is not the player Luke Kuechly was. Yet, maybe. We'll see. Carson Wentz, 57. Gotta show him some love because no team probably had more significant injuries, especially to the skilled position, than the Eagles. I mean, they're at multiple points throughout the year, Wentz was throwing to second and third string wide receivers. And yet, he led this team to the playoffs with a 9-7 record. And again, the dude only lost 2 games by multiple scores. He deserves a lot of credit for how well the Eagles did last year. And hopefully, the team will be a little bit healthier this year. Granted, Brandon Brooks out for the year. Likely. Shaquille Barrett coming here at 56. He was a dominant pass rusher, totaling 20 sacks on the season. I believe that led the league. Not positive. I don't have the stats in front of me. Just his. And 82 pressures. The Bucks, they were wise to throw the franchise tag on him. Hopefully they can get some sort of long-term deal done. The only reason he doesn't place any higher is the guys ahead of him were much better run defenders. Tre'Davious White at 55. I think there's no question who the best player on that Buffalo defense is. While Buffalo, they have a lot of quality starters, quality players on that team, I don't think none of them are the superstar that Tre'Davious White is. He allowed 552 yards, but unfortunately, I say unfortunately, like his one dud this year came against DeAndre Hopkins, but of course, the dude's a stud. But he added 6 interceptions, 7 pass breakups, and it looks like he decided not to opt out for the season, so dodged a bullet there. Mike Evans coming in at 54. Injury really caused him to miss some time. He actually has almost 200, or if not 200, fewer snaps than a lot of the guys above him on this list at receiver. But he still managed to haul in 8 touchdowns, almost got 1,200 yards. And keep in mind, he also had to deal with the accuracy issues of one Jameis Winston, which is, I think, why that when Evans was targeted, he only had a passer rating of 87.5. I think you could probably put some of the blame on Winston because, honestly, Mike Evans has some of the surest hands in the league, and he had to make some circus catches this past season. And we got Tom freaking Brady here at 53. I know a lot of people are probably sick of Tom Brady. Y'all don't think he deserves to be on this list. I disagree. He led the Patriots to a 12-4 record, and you could be like, well, he was playing behind a Super Bowl caliber defense. And I mean, the dude had an early exit from the playoffs. He was basically non-existent in their playoff game. But you got to keep in mind what he was dealing with, because it's not like he had many weapons on that team. Not dynamic weapons. That's why you saw him, like, I think the turning point was that Houston game where you really saw the frustration Brady had just with his receivers. But despite that, despite maybe the lack of strength now he has, his arm can't really shoot it downfield, he overcame that. I mean, the Patriots, they were second in the league when it came to drop passes. Don't tell me he wasn't dealing, like, having to overcome some stuff. Again, despite this, Brady led the Patriots to the 7th most points per game and the 11th best DVOA. I'm just saying, you know, Brady, he's still pretty great. And I'm a Dolphins fan. I hate saying that. Gotta get that out of my mouth. 52, Marcus Williams, the safety, man. This dude, he's one of the best young safeties in the league. And it was great seeing him come and basically return to form, if not greater than his rookie season, because he kind of had a bit of a sophomore slump. He registered 12 defensive stops, which actually was more than his past 2 years combined. And on top of that, he added 4 interceptions, 6 pass breakups. Levante David coming here at 51. He has been one of the best linebackers since entering the league in 2012. Despite just a revolving door of coaches and scheme changes, the guy's still been elite. He's held his own in coverage, and even being the 3rd most targeted linebacker in coverage, the dude was still stellar. He had 18 pressures on 99 pass rush and snaps, which is pretty freaking good, and 54 stops. F50, I got Derrick Henry. I know this is, a lot of people think he's top 10, but running back, it's a devalued position. If you're not new to the channel, then you know this song and dance. But the dude was a workhorse. He's kind of the bell cow of days gone by. You know, that's just not what the NFL is anymore. But he did finish the Russian champion, which I think much of that credit really deserves to go to an offensive line that gradually got better as the season went on. And yes, the change to Ryan Tannehill kind of made all the difference for this offense. But that doesn't take away from what Henry did accomplish. He had 18 total touchdowns on the season. The dude was an unstoppable force. We saw in the playoffs where he broke 13 tackles through 3 games, excuse me. The dude was just really good. Zach Martin at 49 here. He's just one of the best at what he does. He's very disciplined, one of the best technicians in the league. He's actually one of the most disciplined. The dude was the least penalized player of last season. He allowed no sacks this past year. He's just good. Harrison Smith coming in here, 48. Him and Anthony Harris, who will be on this list later, just very good. Despite the poor play, the lackluster play of the cornerback position, they still led a pretty solid unit there in Minnesota. He's been so good for so long. It's kind of a no-brainer that his name pops up on this list. He actually only allowed a passer rating of 35.7 when targeted. Had 3 interceptions, 6 pass breakups. Yeah, Harrison Smith's kind of good. Lane Johnson coming in here at 47 for the Eagles. And another guy I feel like kind of goes underappreciated. He continues to put in year after year just great effort, and I think he kind of gets overshadowed just because he plays at right tackle. Right tackle, literally just as good as left tackle. Like in the NFL, it's kind of the left tackle is no longer kind of like that, where you need to have your stud. Defenses have changed. They're more dynamic. They shuffle players around. Both your tackles need to be pretty darn good. But he had the highest run blocking grade of any offensive line player, and he only allowed 1 sack on the season. Davante Adams coming here at 46. The importance that Adams is to the Green Bay offense, I think, goes without being said. Like when he was banged up, Rodgers, he had trouble finding someone else to really rely upon. And then, I mean, just look at Adams' playoff performance. Through 2 games, he had 17 catches, 298 yards, 2 touchdowns. And that was despite the shellacking they got from the Niners. He's one of the best route runners, and honestly, he has one of the best releases, like, in the league. Like, him getting off the line of scrimmage is just beautiful. Next, I got Nick Chubb here at 45, and here comes, I think this is a hot debate, because I think, personally, Nick Chubb, Derrick Henry, they're both very similar, and I think they're very close to one another. You might be like, well, Derrick Henry had the banger of a playoff performance. Nick Chubb was really running behind a pretty poor offensive line at some parts. And they were both very close in rushing and receiving stats. The only big difference was Henry's 10 more touchdowns. And you'd be like, well, that should be a dead ringer. For me, I think Chubb did better in significantly better areas. Like his he had more broken tackles than Henry. He was better at evading tackles. So I like that. I like elusive running backs. And then he also didn't turn over the ball nearly as much as Henry. And granted, Chubb, I think 2 of his fumbles came in a pretty rough game for the Browns in general against the Patriots in pretty wonky. It wasn't like bad weather. It was just cold because, New England. But, if you want to put Henry above Chubb, I won't argue it. They're both great at what they do. Next, I got Chris Jones. The dude's a monster. He's a game changer. Utter force for the Chiefs defense. Despite missing some time, he still totaled 58 pressures, 9 sacks. He was also a menace, batted down 5 balls, 2 of which came in the Super Bowl. The dude, I think he deserves some credit for that big momentum change that eventually led the Chiefs to just running away with the game. Chris Jones, kind of monster, got his big deal. Good for him. Eric Armstead. Talking about the Super Bowl, here we got Eric Armstead. He was phenomenal in his own right. The guy has the ability to kick inside and out, and he's just probably one of the best players on that very talented defensive line. A very scary defensive line there in San Fran. But the dude, even like I said, even in the playoffs, he recorded 10 pressures, 2 sacks through 3 games. One of the best run defenders in the league. I got him here at 43. 42, Quentin Nelson. Narrowly beats Zach Martin here by just being the better run blocker. I think that was the easiest way to kind of separate who should go over who. But much like Martin, he allowed no sacks, 20 pressures, and he was also flagged only 3 times this season, which was only 1 more than Zach Martin. And then at 41, I got Kirk Cousins. This is probably I don't know. This just sounds weird. You would never consider Kirk Cousins a top 50 player. At least most people won't. But he had a top 50 type year last year. That's the thing. He was one of the best closers in the league. He had the highest passer rating of any quarterback in the 4th quarter. He was also, only Mahomes was more efficient on deep ball passes. Kirk Cousins was at the tippy top of his game, and I think, hey, I know Kirk Cousins may kind of be a controversial name when it comes to top quarterbacks, but he had a top quarterback-like season last year. But that's it for the list. Go ahead, let me know what you think in the comment section below. And of course, till next time, you be easy, my friend. Later.